Good evening and welcome to Time with Irbad Ibrahim. And Africa is only some 48 hours away from celebrating AU Day, and there couldn't have been a better topic to discuss today than Pan-Africanism and the political history of the Republic of Ghana, with sharp focus on the persona of a very important legend. Before I go for my first break, a little blurb on our guest today. This gentleman is currently the coordinator of Quilombo Community Education Project in London, the United Kingdom, and Quilombo Center for Civil Society and African Self-Determination, PECI, Ghana, which jointly publishes the Quilombo Pan-African Community Journal. He is also the producer and coordinator of Another World is Possible radio program, currently on GFM radio in London. He is also a regular guest as a Pan-Africanist on Press TV, and he has made a number of appearances on Al Jazeera. He contributes articles to the Counterfire website and Bazooka News. He worked with the Sudan Organization Against Torture in London in 2008 and was one of the coordinators of worldwide demonstrations in support of Darfur in 2005. Recently, his articles have been published in The Insight, Public Agenda, The Ghanaian Times, and Crystal Clear Lens in Ghana. Let's go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we introduce such a prolific guest. Stick and stay with us. You're welcome back. This month's, persona was encapsulated in a recent citation that was presented him by the Director of Engineering Services Limited in Accra. We are privileged to have in the studio Comrade, Explo, Nani, Kofi. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the show.
It's a great privilege to be here.
I've had so many important guests on this show, but they've had blurbs or intros that are quite brief, but in your case I have a whole pamphlet. Welcome to the show, sir.
Yeah, it's maybe because nothing much is heard of me in the media.
Oh,
so everything you see is new.
Okay. First of all, for people who have not heard of you or people who haven't heard of you for a long time, how would you introduce yourself to our viewers? Who is Comrade Explo Nani Kofi?
Oh, actually, I will consider myself as a social justice practitioner and a grassroots organizer. A person who started his politics in this country 43 years ago, but who had to flee for his life because of commitment to the cause of social justice, and also not to cow down in the presence of military dictatorship. And I've been outside for about 35 years. I couldn't even attend my mother's burial, and I've just returned home to bury two siblings and my father. Actually, this is the 35th anniversary of the June 1983 jailbreak through which I left this country. And I think that in the discussions we'll throw a bit of light on a jailbreak which covered 3 major cities in Ghana, stretching from Tema to Accra to Nsawam. And as a person from PECI, this is the 30th anniversary of the invasion of the Ghana Armed Forces in my hometown. BBC said the whole of the Ghana Armed Forces was at war against a small town in Ghana called PECI. And this is the 30th anniversary. I'm back home in the midst of all this. And I'm leading a pro-Nkrumah unity of the pro-Nkrumah parties in South Dine. Throughout Ghana, unity of the pro-Nkrumah parties has eluded all the other 274 constituencies. But in our constituency, we have achieved pro-Nkrumah unity, where we have agreed that the pro-Nkrumah parties will never present more than one candidate in any parliamentary election. As we've been saying, maybe those at the top don't want to be president, but we in South Dine want pro-Nkrumah parties to be in parliament.
We'll go into your political persuasions, and it's quite scary that in looking at your departure from Ghana, you were put up for execution at that time. But then, how did life start for you? Can you take us through your journey as an individual, first of all?
First of all, before the escape from death.
Yes. You were born in
yes.
You were born in.
I was born in Afwegan.
Okay.
My mother's hometown, also in Volta region.
Okay.
My father hails from Peki. Okay. I was born in Afwegan. I spent most of my life, earlier life, elementary school in Accra until 65.
Which school in Accra?
Carnation 7 Primary.
Okay.
And then I continued in Bechim RC Boys up to 69 when I first came to my hometown Peki, okay, where I studied for 1 year in the Avetile Methodist Middle School, after which I had a full scholarship to attend Maule Secondary School, where I was for both O-level and A-level, having got one distinction at O-level and to continue. And I was admitted to do BSc Honors Planning at the then University of Science and Technology, now Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. In fact, that is where my activism peaked. And as a social justice practitioner, in fact, there was the crisis in the 80s in the university where a whole hall of students were rusticated. I was not in that hall, but as a student leader, we had to fight the issue for justice for students. It ended up with 41 students going to lose their degrees. And it's something I took up. Most people saw me taking it up as a personal cause, and which brought me in conflict with the university authorities.
We'll go into your life in mainstream politics.
Yes.
But you were a student leader. How do you feel when today the National Union of Ghana Students or Ghanaian Students has been, quite divided by TIN and TESCON and other, partisan groups on campus?
The student movement is part of society. It is a general reflection of the disorganization in our society and the legacy that the Provisional National Defense Council has left Ghana after 31st December coup. The fact is that the cohesion that we had in society was lost when, after a long period of time, what could be the truth or what could be accepted is the one-way story of the military dictatorship. So at a time when there was struggle for constitutional rule, in most countries, when there's struggle for constitutional rule, there's a sovereign national assembly or a sovereign national conference, in which case both the opposition and those involved in the military regime could be involved. But this was solely driven by the military regime. So other forces, the only way they could rectify this is to always produce counter structures to counter the armed gang. Because the military regime is an armed gang. And when you have a civilian society trying to fight for change, and the military regime drives the process, what you have is that the armed gang pretends to be part of civil society. And since the armed gang pretend to be part of civil society, they create what is automatic vigilantes, whether in student movement or in civil society. So you have to create similar structures. And that is what has divided the student movement. In fact, it's not only the student movement which is divided. The media, when you listen to the media, It's just NDC versus MPP all the time. There's this kind of dichotomy. So the student movement is not separate from society as a whole. And that's the unfortunate situation we had. When we had the National Union of Ghana Students at our time, there was such unity that we could fight the Unigov struggle, we could fight many struggles as a united body of students. And now, the legacy in which we couldn't have a transition which was jointly organized by society but solely driven by one side at a time when we were fighting for a termination of the gangsterism of that side.
You make mention of a champon, quite in a subtle way, when
Yes.
the idea of Unigov came.
Yes.
Nooks or the student leadership was able to throw thousands of people onto the streets, if I'm right.
Yes.
But today they can't unite around any single theme. Would you call for the caution of such partisan groupings on campus?
I think
and
that, as I've said, let us not make it appear as if what's happening in the student movement is only happening in the student movement.
Okay, it's not isolated.
I think society as a whole, what I found out is that political consciousness has fallen very much in this country compared to those days when we were here.
Okay.
When you go through society, all throughout the youth, people don't even know the history. When you even take the government textbooks, they don't reflect the true character of what has happened. In fact, when I talked to many people before this program, they were surprised to hear that anything like June 19, 1983 happened. But if you take the scale of operation of the June 19, 1983, that there were jailbreaks in Temaneva base, in Field Engineers Garum in Teshin, in Military Academy Garum in Teshin, in Asha Fort, in James Fort, and far away in Sawam. The only kind of military operation which covers such a large scale that you can compare with the 24 February 1960 school, which we were in Nkrumah. But you won't find this in the history books. It's written out of history. And that is the other reason why on 17th June this year, I'm organizing to mark the 35th anniversary of June 19th together with the 30th anniversary of the invasion of my motherland in Peki, Avetile.
And Comrade, you make mention of political consciousness.
Yes.
How did June 19 happen with such coordination? Those times there were no mobile phones, there was no social media. How come there was the synergy in terms of the struggle to, get out of the shackles or free yourself from the yoke of incarceration?
One particular aspect of June 19th is that it was a split in the PNDC, which by the end of the first year of the PNDC, only two of its original members were still on the council, Ajay and Rollins. And the others who felt that what they saw as the aims of the transformation process were being abandoned fell out with Rollins. It was not only the council members who fell out, but even the rank and file soldiers and civilian political organizers like myself. So we were a parallel structure. And this is the aspect that might not have been told correctly in our history books. It was a parallel structure. So actually, in terms, Adumaku Nyamiche had been on a TV program, and I'm sure many people saw that. And those who were originally very active around the PNDC, both military and civilians, were those who were being pushed aside. So these were very committed forces, the same forces who fought on 31st December to overthrow the Liman regime. So they were brave, bold, committed, and they were equally as smart as they planned the 31st December. And so that is how this coordination happened. And the fact is that since these people had all the experience of how to coordinate, were the people coordinating the defense committees, the armed forces defense committee organizers, majority of the leading armed forces defense committee organizers were demobilized, they were part of this, the police, PDC organizers, the national secretariat of the National Defense Committee, And strangely, the Volta Regional Secretariat, of which I was the coordinator, was added to the Accra, Greater Accra, and the National Secretariat. So it was a division within the government. So this is what you see as an equal force to the government, and that is why there was such coordination. And the other thing is that because we were part of the government, information was leaking from within the government. As Edumaku Nyamiche said on the program, it was from the Osu Castle, Rawlings' own place, that information leaked. That if we didn't do anything before November 16, 1983, all of us who were in guard rooms and they were not having places to take us because the prison also have some laws. So when they want to push us in the prison, they will not take us. Some of us remain in the guard room, like Temaneva Base, Field Engineers guard room, that we may face mass execution in November 16, 1983. So when you are threatened with death, when you are told that by November 16, 1983, if you are still in detention, all of you face mass execution, you will sit down and you actively organize to free yourself.
That's quite a good point. But for such large-scale mutiny and falling out with the ideals of probity, accountability, and social justice, what did you find wrong with the way the PNDC was running the country at that time, from the 1979 coup that culminated in this one, then 81, and then
1981,
and the AFRC, it culminated into this.
We're a collective. We are a collective, okay, as a team of people running the country.
Okay.
So if there's a disagreement,
yes, sir,
and this agreement even internally cannot be resolved,
and what was the disagreement specifically?
First, the IMF and the World Bank intervention.
Okay.
You see, before the coup,
okay,
there were progressive organizations which have been gradually developing in this country.
Okay.
In fact, even in 1981, in August, when Rawlings had a coup, an interview with a Nigerian paper, the Nigerian Call.
Yes, sir.
He said, he used that for his own propaganda, that he was working with the June 4 movement, the People's Revolutionary League of Ghana, and the New Democratic Movement. All these groups are groups which emerged in the youth movement of the 1980s, which were building on the Kwame Nkrumah's legacy. Loosely, the agreement among these groups was that we should have the termination of foreign control of our economy. Our economy should not be controlled by these multinationals. That we should reorganize production, production relations and structure.
Yes, sir.
We should reorganize the class structure of the control of the state. We should have structures which will involve the masses, the broad masses, and seek their interests. And we should have a program which should initiate efforts towards improving the material conditions of our people. Okay. Immediately the IMF and the World Bank negotiations started. Number one, the issue of foreign domination through multinational companies creeping. Point one is already gone. The other thing is that there was the issue also of corruption. When Chris Atim, a member of the PNDC, resigned, he complained about unaccountable use of foreign state reserves. And before the conflict, there were two press conferences. Chris Atim told the whole of Eastern Europe and Cuba, had a press conference and said, look, because this country looked after us, we are paying the money back to chess. Ato Austin went to North Korea, said yes, he had a press conference paying back to chess half of the money that he took there. What do we have now? Per diem, and even per diem is not enough for them. So that is when the greedy bastard started. When Rawlings want to complain about the greedy bastards, this process initiated the process of creating greedy bastards. Now Harry Herbert Latte has listed a number of things for he himself, including Abacha, 5 million, 10, 2 million for him to answer. You see, when many people talk about including he Rollins himself, complain about the state of the NDC and the corruption. He forgets where it was born. It was born in this process of division when those of us who were found to be too hard on the anti-corruption struggle had to be either locked up, killed, or escape. In fact, Brigadier General David Kluche, I hope he's listening to this program. When I was in detention, my parents went to him. He said, one Kwasi Kamasa and myself were troubling people with this our anti-corruption team, and that we don't know that when people are working, they have to eat from where they work. Lima and Co also had to eat from where they work. So why do we have to stage a coup? If all what we have to stage a coup for and lose so much blood that the party we create is not different from the parties of the old state which we overthrew.
You mentioned dipping of hands into our foreign forex reserves in those. How widespread was the notion of corruption within the revolutionary movement?
Oh, the fact is that I quoted somebody who was a member of the council. So as a member of the council, he was better informed. And he's still alive. I think you can interview him one day.
So the man mentioned that you eat from whence you work.
No, that was why I quoted Kluche.
Okay.
But I said that Chris Atim resigned from the PNDC during that repression, before the June 19th explosion. And he, in his resignation letter to Rollins, mentioned the unaccountable use of our foreign exchange reserves.
Okay.
So he complained about that in his resignation letter as a PNDC member, because you wanted to know what the PNDC was doing wrong. So yes. I'm telling you what a member said.
Okay. And then you said you were kicking against the domination or infiltration of this system or country of multinational companies. Today, millennials, like young people now, they know of Barclays, they know of KFC, where they can grab a bite. McDonald's, no, not too much in Ghana. We don't have that, presence in West Africa. What were the multinational companies you were so ferociously against in those times?
Oh, that's why I said that as a principle. Then I move on to look at that foreign control in terms of it coming through the IMF and the World Bank. Okay. Yes, I was taking the general principle of what united the progressive movements.
So you would admit that Chairman Rawlings created a firewall against foreign infiltration, and therefore you can't itemize any multinational companies that were operational in Ghana at that time.
Oh no, I'm not saying that Chairman Rawlings created a firewall, and that's why I'm not mentioning any multinational company. But I'm saying that the IMF and the World Bank were in the lead. You see, the IMF and the World Bank work through influence a number of multinational companies. Yes, I've not mentioned any multinational company offhand, but the system where the IMF and the World Bank work through these multinational companies is what we are generally agreeing. You were talking about KFC and other things.
Yeah.
We are not saying that there shouldn't be any external companies working in a country. Foreign control of our economy is different from saying that we bar, in today's global world, we cannot bar companies working in this country, so that no foreign company should come here, no KFC should come here. That's not what we are saying. We are talking about control. There's a difference between control and say, oh, hey, Explo is saying that, oh, we don't want to see any American company, we don't want to see any Chinese company. That's not what I'm saying. We are talking about whether they control the economy. And the IMF and the World Bank was in a dictatorship position. And that is why there was a division in the government. It's not just one person saying it. In fact, even the PNDC secretaries and the NDC meetings, when they decide to vote on this thing, there was even an alternative program. One thing I'll point out to you is that I was arrested on 7th December 1981. On 8th December 1981, I was coordinating a program to look at how we can mobilize so that we can cushion ourselves from the hardships that the IMF and the World Bank programs will create. And a day before the conference, I was arrested. So the conference became history.
I would ask you this question. The IMF has used, those times you would have, argued it was trying to use the back door. But today, out of our own volition, as a third world country, we still go to the IMF. So given the opportunity...
yes, that is why we talk about changing the class structure of the control of the state. The fact that the process started, and I have been saying that after the overthrow of Kwame Nkrumah, what we had was 24th February 1966 new political consensus, where the political consensus was to submit ourselves to the control of these institutions. When the 31st December coup was announced, the impression was created in the country that we wanted to reverse that consensus. That is why there's a division that if the impression created when we were making all the noise was that we wanted to reverse that consensus, and we ended up bringing back that consensus or consolidating that consensus, obviously there will be a problem. In fact, those who have read some of the CIA declassified files, the Americans were saying that Nkrumah became a major obstacle to their ability to control politics in Africa, and that was one of the reasons why they influenced Kotoka, Hale, and Afrifa in overthrowing them. It's the CIA declassified files which are saying this, not Explo Nani Kofi.
Who was Brigadier David L.K. Kluche, and why did he call for your arrest in 82?
He was the first brigade commander at that time. And not that he called for my arrest, I think that I'll refer to him as, when in the local parlance they say Abrafo. So he was like Rollins Abrafo. Rollins is the main man who was calling, Rollins and Kojochikata were people calling for arrest because of the divisions in the PNDC. Other people exploited other reasons. For example, maybe I would have even been released. But one time I was called by a crew chief to his office, and he told me that when he came to Volta region, he came with one then Major Carter, who had gone to the Middle East. And I was so disobedient to them, and that he wants Major Carter to come and see that they have been able to lock me up before I will ever be arrested. So whilst there was the political differences, individuals were also setting scores in various ways. So he was in charge of one brigade, he was in charge of the military in Volta region, and if actually they used the military, I'll consider my arrest to be a kidnap, because it was done in a very cowardly way.
How was it done?
Yeah, that's what I'm coming to now. But first, the very day I was arrested, first a helicopter came. I don't know whether it was coming for me. But when the crowd in the early days of the regime, those of us in the defense committees were quite popular with the people. So the helicopter came, and all the workers in Ho, almost all workers, surrounded the helicopter and wanted to find out what it was there for. And those days, the helicopter was moved. Anytime that there was some kind of confusion like that, the helicopter came. Because on one occasion, I was in the house of the PNDC Secretary for Youth and Sports, Able. And a number of us were all officials of the PNDC, including even the chairman of the Public Tribunal, George Ajekum. But there, and the helicopter came with the head of state, and he held it at gunpoint on our knees, and this psychologically tortured us and all that. So when we saw the helicopter, we thought it was the same show again. When they surrounded us, the helicopter, they couldn't give any answer, they left. Hold on, I'm coming. And then I saw the various forces commanders and the administration, and I was told by one soldier they were looking for me, and they wanted the regional secretary, which the regional minister. I don't know where he vanished to that day. And later, I phoned the barracks to know what was happening. I was deceived that there was a meeting, so I was being invited to a meeting. So I went there, naively, just by myself, a civilian walking by himself into the military barracks. Went to the CEO's office, sat down, and they started shouting some, I don't know what they were doing with the military defense committee, people marching and attention, shine, or I don't know what that was for. Then later I was told that, oh, they had a message for me and they wanted to give it to me before the defense committee, that I was wanted in Accra by the army commander. And I said, oh, I'm not a soldier. Secondly, I'm a member of the Regional Security Council. So it's very wrong that the CEO is my co-equal on the Regional Security Council. So he couldn't be holding me this way. Then the one guy told me, shut up! When you get to Accra, you get to the army, you understand what's happening. So I consider it a kidnap. And then...
But members of the defense committee, you weren't allowed to bear arms. Did you bear arms in those times?
No. I was a civilian coordinator. I didn't have arms. I don't know whether other people had arms. I didn't have arms.
So there was no way you could have resisted arrest?
Oh, but even if I wanted to resist in the barracks with soldiers, armed soldiers, I would have been a fool. How can I go into a barracks? I'm not trained to fight. And then the soldiers who have been trained, not even meeting you in the streets, in their own barracks, with the command of the commanding officer, and then trying to resist our arrest. I think I would have been a big fool.
Okay, so with your stiff resistance to the status quo at that time, was you and your colleagues, was it born out of principle, or there was some hidden hand somewhere that was influencing the decisions you were making at that time?
It was born out of principle. As I said, I started politics 43 years ago as a young person, and there were organizations, Kwame Nkrumah Revolutionary Guards, June 4 Movement, Movement on National Affairs, People's Revolutionary League of Ghana. We had groups, we had study groups, we studied to know how to proceed with the future of our country, our continent and the economy, as Pan-Africanists, as social justice practitioners. So it was born out of principles, and that we were committed to these principles. And that's why we're prepared to die for these principles.
So with the almost ultimate sacrifice you made, given the opportunity, would you tread the same path?
I think that I'm treading the same path. Maybe my methods are changed. But in principle, I still insist that we need a group which is directed by social justice. I still insist that I'm against foreign domination and control of our economy. I still insist that we need to change the structure of production. I still insist that we need to change the class structure of the control of the state. I still insist that we need to build structures which represent people. That's why when I came back home, I initiated, if you read the notes, you see, I initiated something called the Ghana Street Parliament Project. It's precisely in support of that fourth point. And I still insist that the masses, the interest of the masses, their material well-being is very important. I see a situation where the gap between the poor and the rich is increasing wider than I ever saw in my life. I see a situation where money is influencing politics worse than I ever saw before 31st December or even before June 4th. In fact, I'm not too young. I saw the Third Republic. I saw elections during the Third Republic. And I see politics now. And in fact, the influence of money in politics today is worse than I've ever seen in my life in Ghana.
We'll go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we continue with Comrade, Explo, Nani, Kofi. Stick and stay with us. You're welcome back. We are still discussing Pan-Africanism and the political history of the Republic of Ghana with Comrade, Explo, Nani, Kofi. You may now join the conversation via WhatsApp on 055 222 5911. You can find that on your screen, or you may call in on our phone line 0302 904 768, and that will be boldly displayed on your sets pretty shortly. Explo, you say your thoughts and principles haven't changed, but the tools you employ have changed. Yes. The military hunters are long gone now, and we live in a very civil society. And from the way you are talking, you don't have so much faith and confidence in civil society organization. Is there any other way you can achieve those ideals you stand for?
To say I don't have confidence in civil society organization is a misinterpretation, a total misrepresentation of what I've been saying so far. Because by saying that we resisted military regime, by saying that we overthrew the Third Republic and we've gone back to a Fourth Republic, so it seems it was not worth overthrowing, that itself is expression of confidence in civil society organization. And by saying that, I've been organizing the pro-Nkrumah electoral front in my constituency as a united front to contest with the major parties and take over the constituency from the major parties is a path of civil organization. So I think that either it was a slip of or you are trying to be a devil's advocate.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. But we've not seen any matches. We've not seen... Okay, sorry, there's a caller. Hello, your name and where you calling us from? Hello?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. Your name and where you calling us from?
My name is Roland Madison, a student of Explo Nani on Senatoric Parliament.
Okay, welcome to the show.
Okay. I'm calling from Accra, Lagos.
Okay, welcome. Yes, you can make your point.
What he's saying and is true, and I also learned a lot from him. And our system of governance is so weak and so corrupt. What he is saying right now on the screen is a total differences to our politics right now. So I'm just promoting his comment and his ideology to go forward and to change the system of governance in Ghana as a whole. That's what I'm calling today.
Okay, thank you so much for your call. We really appreciate it.
And just to add, to say that it's necessary for it to have strict parliaments where masses of civil society elements can meet and express their views, it's not a military action. It's again deepening civil society influence, involvement, popular involvement of civil society. And within less than 1 year, I learned the lessons that military regimes are not the best way to go, because even internally you cannot comment, let alone even being against. We were internally involved in the PNDC and we couldn't comment, we couldn't disagree. And so if as a younger person it never occurred to me, practice taught me that that's not the way forward.
And during your days in exile, and what were the bits and snippets? Of course, it was a self-imposed exile to the same white man's land you're asking us to kick against his culture and influence. You were in the UK. Don't you see that as a mismatch? You could have gone to Cuba or Iran, but you were in London.
Yes, I was not only in London. I was in Togo, I was in Czechoslovakia, I was in London, and I did visit Beirut. So Beirut, Lebanon.
The London connection. Why London?
Why London? London is our colonial master. It has stolen our resources. And that is why we have to go there, because they were here. I didn't go to London to kowtow for the white man. I went in London, and if you want to find out the records, I marched, we had slogans. You were there, and that's why we are here. They have stolen our resources. We are asking them to bring back these resources. And that is why we went there, to continue the struggle that we have been having here. So, in fact, okay. I was on the Stop the War Coalition, the coalition against the US and UK invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, all that. For 5 continuous years until I came home, I was on that coalition. So it's not all of us who go to Britain and other places and sit down, say, oh, we have come here. I was against the monarchy. I was a Republican throughout my years in London. I'm opposed to the monarchy. And so I went there even with the same fighting spirit. One thing I have to make very clear to everybody is that even in Britain and other places, it's not all the white people who are just quiet about our exploitation. There are different organizations there. The people who organize, we organized 2 million people to march on 15th February 2003. After
sorry, there's another caller. Hello, your name and where you calling us from?
I am. Good evening, Doc.
Good evening.
Yeah, I am Albanian socialist. I am calling from Nani.
Okay, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, sir. I am following closely and enjoying the discussion that is going on with you and Uncle Kofi.
Okay.
I only want to register that he's come home at the right time as far as party mobilization is concerned. What we would want some of us in the Nkrumah front or playing major role for the parties to unite, we're asking him to do the best that he can so that we'll find time and see what we can do as a society to once again mobilize this party to become the third force and the leading party in this country again.
Okay.
He's welcome home.
Maybe the main force, not a third force.
Okay. He says a main force rather than a third one. Thank you so much for calling. Okay, you were making a point, sir. So while away, while in exile,
this impression that you go to the white man's land. First of all, there are even in that country, there are people solidarizing with our struggles. During the apartheid days,
I'm really sorry. I'll be cutting in intermittently.
Yes, I like an interactive program.
Hello, your name and where you calling from?
I'm calling from a country in Atman district in Yenahini.
Okay, welcome to the show.
Okay, thank you, sir. But I contribute this program. I like the brother Kofi. But I don't know what to say. But these people, we need them with Ghana to help the Ghana to going forward forever. But no backward forever. Now, what is going on this country? It's so tedious and horrendous. Please, Brother Kofi, keep on going.
Okay.
We enjoy your program.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're most
Bye-bye.
welcome, and thank you so much for calling.
Yes. Thank you too. I'm humbled, but just to stress my point again, that during the apartheid days in South Africa, the anti-apartheid movement, which provided great solidarity for the struggle in South Africa, was based in many of these supposed white men people's countries. And so, as I'm saying, the system of exploitation, capitalism, which is a system of exploitation, is a global system. It's a global system. So if we cannot fight hiding in holes isolated from the metropolis, we have to have a combined force of those of us in the periphery and the metropolis. The solidarity in the metropolis is indispensable in our defeat of imperialism.
So would you consider your period with the white man a period of espionage?
I'll not say espionage. This is the world has no boundaries. In fact, when they march here and took our resources, when you see some of their monarch rulers, they have the gold and diamond in their crown. Do they have it in their country? Okay. The things they've stolen from our country.
Okay.
We go there openly, not as espionage.
Okay. Hello. Your name and where you calling from?
Yeah, my name is Mubarak. I'm calling from Techiman.
Mubarak from Nungwa.
From Techiman.
From Techiman. Kindly speak up a bit, Mubarak.
Come again.
Kindly speak up a bit, Mubarak.
Yeah, I'm Mubarak, calling from Piximan.
Yes, speak up a bit and put off your TV set, and we can still hear you.
Hello? Hello?
Mubarak, we can hear you. Either tune the volume on your set down or put off your TV set, and we can still hear you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Everybody.
Welcome.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, your program is very, very interesting, and we hope you keep it up. As a young guy growing up in Ghana, I can say we actually need a third force in terms of political party. Since I grew up, I can say I started knowing what is going on in the country from 2000 till now. It has been NPP, NDC, NPP, NDC. But we cannot pinpoint any major kind of development in terms of anything. So I think it is time Ghanaians wake up and then we find a third force that can stand the NPP, NDC kind of politics that we are doing in Ghana. It is not helping us at all.
Okay, thank you
As
so
a
much.
young guy, I don't see any future.
Okay, thank you so much, Mubarak from Techiman. Thank you so much.
And Southern assures you.
Yes. So, you consider South Dai as a mecca around which revolutionaries would, amass?
Oh, no, Southern will be a model.
So why the emphasis on one geographical area?
Yeah,
Isn't this a mass movement that is universal in its ideals?
Yes. Let me open your eyes to something else. When I was in London, I was a very close friend of Jeremy Corbyn, the MP in Islington North. And I'm sure many people, if you have also been reading around the UK, until Jeremy Corbyn became the Labour Party leader, everybody thought that Jeremy Corbyn was just hidden in Islington North. And then had all these rabble-rousing friends around him like Explo and co. Big things start small. From Islington North, Jeremy is likely to be the next Prime Minister of Britain. And that even when Nana Akufo-Addo, who is from a party which is not a friend of the Labour Party, which is rather a friend of Theresa May's party, went there. If you saw Ghana Web, he was promoting his pictures with Jeremy Corbyn, inviting him to come to Ghana and all that. If it started from Islington North and it worked, it could start from South Dai.
Okay. Nkrumahism is in tatters, arguably.
Nkrumahism is not in tatters. The movement is in tatters. It doesn't mean the ideas or the ideology is in tatters.
CPP isn't in a good shape. PPP isn't, which is a breakaway political party from the CPP. PNC isn't in a good shape. On which solid grounds would you be standing to create a new wave of, political conscientization?
Anybody who has followed history properly, changes start from below. When the ruled are no longer prepared to be ruled in the old way. And that is why, as I have the confidence, I use the Islington thing, but maybe the picture is not clear to you yet. When Southern manages to set an example, you see the guy from Techiman, the guy from Sunyani, they are all looking up to see an example. If the example starts from below, the rotting top will fall. And when the rotting top falls, and we have similar efforts, over the years, about 8,000 people have voted for CPP, PPP in our constituency. Things don't necessarily start on mass scale. But when you have a groundswell, the way in which new parties emerge in various countries, Syriza and Podemos and all this, it just starts that way. Start from small area, a small community, a small constituency. People say they don't want to continue to do things. Maybe it appears as if it's only South Dai. Who knows what's going to happen by 2020 when people continue hearing South Dai? In fact, I was talking to the managing editor of Insight, and I said, The media is not even publicizing that this thing is happening in South Dai. So people will not hear it as an example. It's when people hear that there is an encouragement somewhere, then they feel like practicing it. Because ordinary people don't necessarily like wait for press conferences and things. They wait to see whether there's an action of change somewhere. And I'm telling you that what's happening in South Dai might not delay so much its effect on the country if you be bold to be having programs like this and having people like me coming on TV and radio and see. So far, everybody who had phoned in is encouraging what I'm doing. So far, nobody has yet phoned in to be as cynical as you are, maybe not intentionally trying to be. Let me just give you the benefit of the doubt that you are a devil's advocate.
We're still with Explo and Nani Kofi. We are discussing a plethora of issues that border on Pan-Africanism, Nkrumahism, and Ghana's political history. And Comrade, would you want to see your picture on a ballot paper?
Oh, I think that I'm not a young person now. My main duty now is to share my experiences with the younger generation, and so that they can be as conscious as I was at their age, and so that people can emerge to do what I could have done. Yes, yeah. In fact, when I was in Britain, my name, I did appear on a ballot paper to contest for the Greater London Assembly elections.
In a county or a borough?
A combination of 3 boroughs.
Okay.
Yes, that's the Greater London Assembly election.
I see.
And then, bravely as it is, I contested in the most racist constituency, which was West Central London, including Westminster, and even a Conservative Party person who once said that you have to be brave and bold to stand against the Conservatives in that constituency. But even I didn't stand for Labour, I stood for a radical. No, I don't stand for any of those things. I stood for the socialist-oriented left list.
You say there is going to be a groundswell. I would want to, and we are in the dying embers of the interview anyway.
Yeah, I said that there can be a groundswell. There's a groundswell in South Dai, and South Dai can be a model for spreading that groundswell.
What is the demographic of those who buy into your idea? You've made a reference to callers from Sunyani, Techiman, and other areas. Do you have the support of the chiefs in the area, the support of intellectuals, intelligentsia, young people? Who are the people who follow you?
Young people are the, you can see even the young people are people calling me. In our constituencies, the young people who are coming. The chiefs, they will wait until the young people are moving. They are still used to the old thing. In my constituency, the chiefs, maybe as the armed forces came and slapped them and all that, they are not bold to do what the youth are ready to do. And that, let's continue to educate the youth. And as I said, it's not people like me who will be on the ballot now. If by working, I'm more than 60. I don't look it. I'm more than 60. And we have younger, I want people between 25 and 40 to be on the ballot.
Is there a future for what you are doing currently? Or you are the usual frustrated blogger who has come back and you just want to make noise?
Oh, again, devil's advocate trying. I'm not a frustrated blogger coming back to make. Consistently throughout my life, I told that even in Britain and other places, I remain political. But it's not that I hit somewhere as a blogger and coming to make noise. I consistently took my anti-imperial politics to Britain, to every country in which I've lived.
Okay.
I'm raising consciousness. Okay. Some Nkrumah and others raise the consciousness of people like us too.
Hello?
And the same way Nkrumah and Co raise our consciousness, I'm also raising people's consciousness.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for calling. Your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Jibakwesi Junior Satia. I'm calling from Accra, Ofankobaria.
Ofankobaria in Accra. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. First of all, I want to greet all the listeners and
the host,
Viewers,
then
yes.
Explo, Nani, Kofi. Yes, I thank God for his life and that he is back to Ghana. I heard everything that he has been saying and I've been following him on Facebook for some time now. I think he's bringing something back to Ghana and we have to support him and the youth. More I think about the youth because we are the leaders of the future. So I pray. But one thing I want to find out from Explo, that now that he's back to Ghana, what is he going to do so that what he planned in the those days that he couldn't do, that is to come to reality in our time now. That is what I want to find out from Explo.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Because apart from the mass mobilization, what is your game plan?
Oh, my focus is on education and raising consciousness. And I intend developing a center called Another World is Possible. There's a similar center in Dakar, Rosa Luxemburg Foundation. I have plans to collaborate actively with the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation to develop alternatives to the kind of order which we have now. And so it's not a knee-jerk crashing, and I will continue working with the World Social Forum and other networks. In fact, I don't work in isolation. As I said, capitalism is global. The resistance to it is global. Its exploiters too are global. Nothing happens by an isolated. The kind of governments we have here in Africa are also colluding with our former colonizers and all that. In the country of our former colonizers, we have a solidarity movement the same way they supported the anti-apartheid movement, so that South Africa, even if it's not totally free because there are hangovers of the past, at least an apartheid regime doesn't exist. So I have a lot of confidence. The same way in which we were able to overthrow colonialism, I'm confident the African people will overthrow neocolonialism. And I take the opportunity again to invite all people to Peki on 17th June at 1 p.m. Peki Avetile, where we'll have an event to mark the 35th anniversary of the June 19th jailbreak and the 30th anniversary of the invasion of Peki.
You are a man of many words, and we have only a minute or so to go. This came from Joe in Tamale. He says, how many days did you spend at the military barracks, and where was your family at that time?
How many days? I was locked up for 6 months, from December to 7th to June 1982 to June 19, 1983. And as I said, I took part in the jailbreak and escaped on June 19, 1983. I had family, if you mean my parents and siblings, they were in Ghana. I was not married. If Joe wants to know, although I'm above 60, this is the first time I've had a child, and my pretty daughter is 8 months old.
What is your religious persuasion? It looks like for a good part of your prime, you were a celibate.
Oh, it has nothing to do with religion. The fact is that I take my politics very seriously, and that, as I've pointed out what I was doing with my whole life all along, until I returned home, I didn't find peace with my soul. So now that I'm back home, and as I said on Facebook, life starts at 60, I've started life.
Okay. I would want you to take your closing remarks. What kind of a legacy do you want to leave with us, the youth? And how do you see this movement 5 years or 10 years to come?
I hope today's appearance on Time with Ibrahim or on DTV1 is not the last one. If the media would make it possible for this exposure, I'm sure the kind of radical, gradual development movement that we had in the 70s can come back. And the baton that Nkrumah, Thomas Sankara and co have left will find hands to take it into the future. A victory will be ours.
There couldn't have been a more resounding note, a more optimistic note to end this conversation on. We've been in the studios with Explo Nani Kofi. Sir, thank you so much for making time. And I hope since you came, you've been taking some good akle and other local dishes. Or your taste buds have changed. You've become a Western.
The fact is that back in London, there are African restaurants, there are Ghanaian restaurants, there are Ghanaian food shops. And I lived in Shepherd's Bush, where the Shepherd's Bush market has a lot of Ghanaian shops. Harrisden is not far away. So I was eating the same things that I've been eating in Ghana.
Okay, you're welcome back. Thank you so much for being with us. This show was ably put together by producers Peter Lambon and Everlasting Johnson, and the executive director was George Nugent, and the man on the beat on the console was Godfrey. So we come your way tomorrow with another edition of Time with Irbad Ibrahim. Stay blessed.